England haven't won a World Cup since 1966. Think about that for a second. Most football fans watching this video weren't even born when England lifted their only World Cup trophy. Since then, failure, disappointment, heartbreak, generation after generation has tried to change the story, and every single one has failed. David Beckham, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard, Wayne Rooney, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand. All of them arrived with huge expectations. None of them delivered the trophy. Now it's the turn of Harry Kane and Jude Bellingham. And that's where the psychological problem begins. Because England players aren't just trying to win football matches. They're trying to end 60 years of pain. That's a burden no other major football nation carries. Argentina don't carry it. France don't carry it. Spain don't carry it. Brazil don't carry it. England carry it. Every headline reminds them. Every interview reminds them. Every fan reminds them. The pressure becomes enormous. And pressure destroys great teams. History proves it. Here's what's scary. England actually deserve the hype. They have elite talent. Harry Kane remains one of the world's best strikers and continues to be viewed as the central figure in England's World Cup hopes. Jude Bellingham is already one of football's biggest stars. Bukayo Saka can destroy defenses. Declan Rice controls matches. Thomas Tuchel is a Champions League winning manager. Even analysts and media outlets have listed England among the strongest contenders for FIFA 2026. On paper, this team looks terrifying. But World Cups aren't won on paper. If they were, Brazil would have won more. Belgium would have won one. France would probably have multiple extra trophies. Talent means nothing if you can't perform under pressure. And that's exactly where England's story gets complicated. Now, before Kane fans attack me, this isn't criticism, it's concern because England might be too dependent on Harry Kane. And that's dangerous. Very dangerous. Thomas Tuchel himself admitted that England struggled without Kane and even described his influence as comparable to that of global superstars like Messi and Ronaldo. ESPN went even further. Their analysis suggested England's chances dropped dramatically without him. Think about what that means. If one player is that important, you have a problem. Because tournaments are unpredictable. Injuries happen, suspensions happen, bad form happens, fatigue happens. Kane is now in his 30s. He has played thousands of minutes this season. Even supporters and pundits have raised concerns about workload management heading into the World Cup. And here's the nightmare scenario. England reach a quarterfinal. Kane gets injured. Now what? Can England still beat Spain? Can they beat Argentina? Can they beat France? That's the question nobody wants to answer. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. England's defense. The attack looks elite. The midfield looks world-class. But the back line, that's where doubts begin. Former England captain Alan Shearer recently suggested that England's World Cup hopes could depend heavily on their defensive strength. And there are reasons to worry. Several experienced defenders have either been left out or entered the tournament surrounded by debate. Some fans question Tuchel's selections. Others question the overall balance of the squad. Meanwhile, injuries have already become a concern. Even Jed Spence is entering the tournament wearing a protective mask after suffering a broken jaw. Now imagine facing Argentina, or France, or Brazil. One defensive mistake, one missed header, one bad clearance, and your World Cup dream is finished. That's why great defenses win tournaments, not just great attacks. England made a huge decision. They hired Thomas Tuchel. The logic was simple. If the players couldn't get over the line, maybe the manager could. And, to be fair, Tuchel is one of the most respected coaches in football, but here's the dark truth. He's still building this team. Some analysts believe England entered the tournament still searching for their final identity, rather than arriving as a completely finished product. Tuchel has made bold selections, controversial selections, risky selections. Even media reports described several of his decisions as major gambles. Now those decisions could make him a genius, or they could destroy England's tournament. There is no middle ground. That's the risk. Because World Cups don't give managers time. One mistake can end everything. Now let's discuss Jude Bellingham. Because he might be England's most important player after Kane, Bellingham isn't just talented, he's expected to become the face of English football for the next decade. But expectations can become dangerous. Some former players have already questioned how England's biggest stars would react if tactical decisions require sacrifices during the tournament. And that's an interesting point. World Cups aren't won by individuals, they're won by teams. Sometimes your best player has to adapt, sometimes your biggest star has to play a different role. Sometimes your ego has to disappear. Can England stars do that? We'll find out. Here's something most fans ignore. Being a favorite is a disadvantage, not an advantage. Why? Because every opponent becomes obsessed with beating you. Nobody studies Panama for 6 months. Nobody spends weeks preparing for an underdog. But England? Everyone studies England. Everyone analyzes England. Everyone knows England. Every weakness becomes public. Every tactical pattern gets exposed. Every mistake becomes a headline, and England aren't sneaking into this tournament anymore. They're arriving with a giant target on their back. That changes everything. This is the biggest concern of all. Forget group stages. Forget qualification. Forget FIFA rankings. Can England beat elite teams in knockout football? Because that's what wins World Cups. Not beating weaker nations, beating giants. England have repeatedly come close in recent years. Semi-finals, finals, quarter-finals. But close isn't enough. At some point you have to defeat the biggest teams on the biggest stage. Spain won't care about England's talent. Argentina won't care about England's history. Brazil won't care about England's media hype. The only thing that matters is 90 minutes. And England still haven't consistently proven they can dominate elite opponents when everything is on the line. That's the truth. Now let's discuss something almost nobody talks about. The tournament itself. This World Cup is different. Huge travel distances, different climates, extreme heat in some locations, demanding schedules. Even coverage surrounding England's preparation has highlighted concerns about player workload and managing energy levels throughout the tournament. That's important, because football isn't just tactical, it's physical. A tired team makes mistakes. A tired defender reacts slower. A tired midfielder loses concentration. A tired striker misses chances. The deeper England go, the more important fitness becomes. And if England's stars arrive exhausted after long club seasons, that could become a major problem. Now let's get brutally honest. England absolutely can win FIFA 2026. This isn't a bad team. This isn't an overrated squad. This isn't a hopeless project. England genuinely have enough quality to lift the trophy. But here's the problem. So, do several other nations. Spain look incredible. Argentina know how to win. France have ridiculous depth. Brazil have unmatched talent. Portugal have world-class players everywhere. England aren't competing against average teams. They're competing against monsters. And when margins are that small, one mistake changes everything. One injury changes everything. One red card changes everything. One penalty shootout changes everything. That's the brutal reality of World Cups. So what is the dark truth about England's FIFA 2026 chances? The dark truth is that England don't have a talent problem. They don't have a superstar problem. They don't have a manager problem. They have a pressure problem, a history problem, a mentality problem. And until they finally prove they can overcome those demons, the doubts will remain. Because we've seen this movie before. The hype, the excitement, the predictions, the dream, and then heartbreak. Maybe 2026 is different. Maybe Harry Kane finally gets his moment. Maybe Jude Bellingham becomes a national hero. Maybe Thomas Tuchel becomes the man who ends 60 years of suffering. Or maybe the same story repeats itself again. And if it does, England won't just lose a World Cup. They'll add another chapter to football's greatest unfinished story. But what do you think? Will England finally bring football home in 2026? Or is another heartbreak coming? Comment below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more football content.